This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of No Friends. No Friends.
No friends. I know we've made jokes about me for the past 5 minutes, but I have friends.
Yeah, we know.
Come
you
on.
have too many friends.
Is it because you were talking to Landon? That's
what I'm saying,
It's another
dude.
Freudian slip.
I don't know where I was
hell?
going.
Because you were
to be
thinking
quite
of my
honest.
podcast, so
No
you combine the
jumper.
names.
You're actually right.
yeah.
You're right.
That's what I
was
assumed.
so in my head.
Wow.
No, this is the first time I've seen Berkey nervous.
I know,
bro.
he's
Berkey
so
shook,
nervous.
bro.
I was
You
prepping this
should.
like nice intro where it's like I was
Nah.
using
This is
Landon.
I had
This
to
is
figure out
way
if that
better.
was planned or not.
This
No,
is
I
way
wish
better.
it were.
That was really a thing?
Very special podcast today, joined by a very special guest, friend of the poker world, a podcaster himself with over 4.5 million followers on YouTube, Adam22, host of the No Jumper podcast. Thanks for being here.
We
man.
clap it
Hello,
up.
Berkey. Thank you, everybody, for having me.
We appreciate you. What are you in town for?
I'm doing Graham Stephens' podcast tomorrow, so I figured, I've been watching a bunch of you guys' shit. I like the daily podcast, so I figured I would tap in. I've been doing some investing and some coaching with Landon as well, trying to get his game together. So
Yeah.
So you've been coaching him?
yeah.
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 He's got some spots that I've been helping him with.
Yeah,
you know.
we cashed a 25K in Florida.
Let's
We
go.
did. That was exciting.
Yeah.
You
I
and
didn't
your
really even
coach?
tell anyone because I didn't think any of my friends would understand.
At least you have friends. I have no friends apparently.
Well, when do you launch your
Like he said.
podcast? When do you launch your podcast?
For the intro, Matt's just sitting
Landon
there
just
like,
launches a rival podcast
No
called No
Friends.
Friends. It's just him sitting in a corner.
That's what Twitch streaming tournaments is.
yeah,
That shit
it's,
blow
just,
up,
it's
though.
just you and the people. Matt's just doing the intro like, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. Welcome to No Friends podcast.
He's like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm so nerous. Welcome to No Friends.
Did you see a guy stream 1,000 hours in 75 days?
I saw that, yeah.
That's sick.
No,
Of
wait,
tournaments?
what?
Yeah, I was an ACR guy.
On ACR.
Ew.
Some
How?
random guy who his total profit was like $4,200, which
Oh
is
no,
What stakes was it?
that's not a good
Low
hourly.
stakes.
pretty low, I think.
Low
30,
stakes.
40.
do
My
you
man
guys-
made $4 an hour.
$4.20.
Hey, 420.
$4.20 an hour.
$4.20.
He said he got multiple ear infections during it. Like,
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. It
What
sounded
did he
pretty
do
tough.
this for? Was he getting it paid at the end?
He just wanted
Did
to prove he
ACR
could do
sponsor
it.
him?
Wait. Are you guys familiar with Arlie? Is it
Shaban?
Shaban?
Shaban.
Yeah. Do you remember his backstory of how he got signed by Stars?
No.
So he streamed for, I think, oh man, Andre, you might know. Was it 75 days straight?
I think it was.
So something insane. He put in like roughly 1,000 hours, give or take, something similar to this, over the course of like 2.5 or 3.5 months, and was just in there day in, day out, slaving 10 hours a day, really getting after it. And Stars rewarded him after the fact with like this big celebration. I think it might have been 1,000 hours because it was some milestone. And when he crossed it, they have those like treasure chest or something like that. And he like opens it and it's this big congratulatory thing like on his stream, ended up blowing up. Shortly thereafter, he gets signed to the stream team.
What the fuck?
He kind of like, him and Jamie Staples both kind of like just
1,000
created
hours?
a career.
That's pretty
Bellagio
wholesome,
better
though.
do that shit to me. Like, what the fuck?
A Bellagio team pro.
Just like Bellagio team pro, the B.
Yeah.
You get a B on the chest.
Start
right
wearing
here.
it.
Day.
Yeah.
That would be a fucking scarlet letter in a live poker room. Man.
Yeah, probably true.
Yes,
the
it
showers
would.
real
Yeah, but
quick.
what
Yeah.
the fuck?
Like no
Pay
seat,
me.
no
I'll
seat,
take
no
it.
seat.
Wait, what?
No seat for the Bellagio.
No
bit.
seat.
It might be worse if you're a Bellagio like enthusiast. Because they're kind of like, oh man, this guy
You
plays
want
a lot.
to you want to do like South Point or something.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, it would shoot me in the face. No disrespect, South
Okay,
Point.
well, there's our
Okay.
fucking South Point sponsorship. You know, we're not really in the position to just be alienating people at this point.
Well, I'm just saying, would you rather have the South Point pro sit down or the Bellagio pro?
No, I'm with you.
You know,
I'm with you.
I mean-
We should be, extending our graces to all properties. South Point, if you're out there, hit us up. We
I heard
got
the food is
space.
nice.
There's no saving this, dude.
The food is
I
nice.
am who I am, all right? I'm not Bellagio. Leave me the fuck alone.
Oh Christ! All right,
Let's get to the shit.
yeah,
man.
let's talk about you, shall we?
Sure. Seems like a good place to start. We can do that and find some other
Why
shit.
do you hate 6ix9ine?
Fuck. I actually thought about that too. I'm like, they're gonna ask me about 6ix9ine because they know it's good clickbait.
That's fucking great.
Game recognized game, you know.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, the whole story of him and me is like kind of crazy because he was just doing all this weird ass shit to get around me, like in the very early days of his career before anybody knew him. Then he begged me to do the interview. I finally did the interview. This is like 2017, 2018. He blows the fuck up after that. And like, we just did not stay in touch. I just kind of like, you know, I was fucking with the music, to be honest. But then the whole Fed case thing happened, whatever. I interviewed like the dudes that he used to be in this gang with. I interviewed his baby mama a couple times. So like, we got a lot of views like while he was locked up. And then, you know, he's just been striving for some kind of relevancy. So, you know, we sort of got into it a little bit today, you know, but it's not too serious.
Man, I can't wait till I have a notable beef. Like, that's what it's all about.
You've had your notable beef.
got some, man.
I
Beef
know
with
about
everybody. Like, he's 6ix9ine beef with everybody.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
literally
true.
everything.
That's like,
He
you know,
just told
having
42
beef with
Doug to
Polk.
come meet him somewhere on Instagram today.
I know, and he didn't do that about me. He commented on the no jumper comment section like he was on there, which does not expose me or the brand to any of his followers,
Right.
which is smart on his part. But, you know, what can you do?
He kind of did the sneaky way.
Yeah, exactly. The way that doesn't really like draw that much
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
It's only people who are already in the conversation
That's
get
some
to find
bullshit.
out about it.
Yeah.
Hey, what can you do?
Well,
All right,
if you're gonna be trash,
fill
that's
us
the
in a little
best
bit.
way.
Like the 6ix9ine drama, I'm a little caught up on because it's a lot more relevant. But like, how the fuck did you go from like we're roughly the same age, so you're coming from like this BMX culture in the Northeast, where like, you know, it's as whitewashed as you could possibly imagine.
Yes.
All the way now to the No Jumper podcast, which is pretty deeply rooted in hip hop culture.
Right.
Very West Coast as far as like I can tell from the outside looking in. Like, walk us through that journey.
So like 2003, I moved to New York City because I wanted to be a BMX filmer, and I had some money saved up from like credit card scamming and shit. So
Have you met my man Conrad?
you too?
He wishes.
So I moved to New York and I started filming BMX for like a couple weeks, and I fucking twist my back, fuck something up in my back where all of a sudden I can't do shit. So I had been very interested in poker. I had read a Phil Hellmuth book. I figured I'm going to deposit $250 into pokerroom.com, which I don't know if anybody remembers.
played on
or
it.
Spent time there.
I was
yeah.
5.
I affiliated for like literally everything. I was
And I
just a
like the
bonus
software
for it.
so much that then when I played on Party and Stars afterwards, it was like hard for me to get into it because I like the poker room software so much. But that I did for like maybe 3 years, was actually doing pretty well there for a while, even though like in retrospect, I have no idea where I would have fit in terms of skill, you know, because like nobody, like in retrospect, it just feels like I didn't take getting better at poker seriously. But in retrospect, like, I don't know if many people
It was
were.
also 2003. Like,
You know, like,
there was
what-
no getting better.
Yeah, it was hard to get better, and it was hard to know if you were better or whatever. But like, but during all that time playing poker, like 8 hours a day and shit, I started, you know, just really paying attention to the blog world, and I'm looking at all these rap blogs that are popping off 2005, 2006, and it kind of just occurs to me, like, I know everything about BMX. I could start a blog about this shit. That basically like takes over my whole life. I start running ads on it. I quit playing poker within like a year doing that, and then just start making videos, doing the whole BMX thing. I moved to California in 2010. Within like a 6 months of moving to California, it just kind of like dawns on me, like, social media is everything. This blog shit is not made to last. Like, I just need to build my YouTube presence and Twitter and all this shit. And started doing a BMX podcast where I was interviewing all these company owners and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, the ceiling, like, really, it's like a small world. It's kind of like poker where you do content, everybody in your little bubble loves it, but then very few people outside of that get exposed to it. There was one rapper that we were kicking it with because he was always hanging out at this bike shop that I owned at the time. I opened a bike shop downtown LA in like 2014. And I did an interview with him. He's like an underground rapper, but it's still got like, you know, probably 5 times as many views as any of the BMX interviews I was doing. And I wasn't really planning on doubling down on it, but then all of a sudden I start having like other cool underground rappers kind of hitting me up, wanting me to do their first interview. And I didn't really realize it, but I was kind of right in the middle of like the SoundCloud rap wave where XXXTentacion hits me up. He wants me to do an interview with him.
That's strong.
I did that one, and just that
blows
changed
up.
everything because his career just skyrocketed after that interview. To this day, it has like 20 million views. I think it's not. I actually checked. It's not the #1 most viewed rap interview of all time. I think it's #3.
People probably went back though, like after he
it's
passed.
still, yeah.
After he passed away, like they probably went back for that.
It's
that
sad
pop.
to say, but the day that he passed away was the most views we ever got on a
what I'm
YouTube
saying,
channel.
yeah.
It's like this insane spike when you look at this graph of our time, whatever. And that made everything go crazy. And then all of a sudden, I was just kind of.
This was like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, I think I interviewed him in 2016, and it just kind of exploded from there. And I was filming the podcast on my iPhone. I had like a mixer and everything to record the audio, and I was just editing it myself. And I was just super passionate about it, and just was like grinding out like, 5 interviews a week. Just go home, study these rappers I was interviewing because I still had so much to learn. I was like a lifelong rap fan, but not taking it serious necessarily enough to know everything.
Right.
And then, I've basically just been trying to put the pieces together and make it work since then. And like the brand has kind of developed in a lot of ways. We have a bunch of different people doing podcasts under the same umbrella. That's the very brief version.
So kind of it just transitioned based off of the amount of exposure that your first rap interview kind of got. Like from the BMX to rap, and then.
All right, so rewinding again to 2005 or 2006 when I started the BMX blog, it was like I also was super into rap at that time, but my mentality was like, why the fuck would anybody want to read my thoughts about rap? I know everything about BMX. I'll just stick to this. By the time you get to like 2015, 16, like I had less of that idea. It kind of become clear to me that you could just be a bit of a rube on YouTube, and that's not really going to hurt you that much. Like people will kind of almost relate to you more if you're a little bit more like them.
Right.
And around that time, it wasn't like I didn't have that many people who were showing me that I could do this at the time. But then pretty soon after, I started to see just white kids or anyone just starting YouTube channels having opinions about rap music, and then now it seems much more approachable. Like I see people starting channels doing content like that all the time, but I was like way too intimidated back in the day to like really dip my toe in there. Although if I always think about like if somebody had thought of like podcasting in like the VHS era,
Right.
You would have been able to sell a fucking hour-long VHS tape interview with Matt Berkey. It might have seemed kind of weird, but people would have
talk
got
shows were
into
super
it, but nobody
popular
thought of it back then.
Yeah, think about like daytime talk shows and how popular they were and how trashy that fucking TV was.
Right.
Sally Jesse Raphael and like all that nonsense, Maury Povich. So it's like
Excuse me,
whenever you relax,
Sally
youngin.
Jesse Raphael.
Nah, you even lost me there, bro. Honestly.
I'm just
All right, Jerry Springer.
Yeah, I was gonna say you picked me back up and more.
I mean, Jerry Springer was like the lowest
Go
of low
forward a
trailer
century
trash
or
type
so.
of TV, but there was like higher brow, like the Maury Povich was always, he's not the father, he is the father. They always did these big reveals.
Yeah.
But like, it all fell in the same format of like a podcast, right? They were just a lot more exploitative on the guest because there were no names, so they had to have some shtick behind it.
Well, they used to take the fucking Klansmen and like random black guys
Yeah.
and put them
Oh
on
my
stage
God.
together. And, like skinheads and like old Jewish ladies on stage together. And, like they stopped doing it at a certain point, but that is
It was the
actually the
original
craziest
clickbait.
thing I can think of to do on camera.
it was like the original clickbait. They
That
would
was
just
this
be
is the
like,
origin of clickbait.
yeah, effectively, they'd run these like 10-second commercials like, today on Maury.
Yeah.
And it's just like, race wars.
And they're punching each other in the face. Like they're actually assaulting each other. Like,
That's the crazy part.
Wow,
about it.
dude.
Like fights did break out, and they were not fake.
Yeah.
No, like a lot
Well,
of
the
pop culture was
security-
framed by this.
The security guard of Jerry Springer got his own show.
He got his own show. Dr. Phil, who was a member of the Oprah Winfrey
nuts.
show, got his own show.
And is
who then
still
later creates Bad Barbie.
Bad
Just from a
baby.
stupid
yes.
catchtophrase,
Bad
right?
baby.
Like pop culture is so
Bad
simple.
baby.
You want to talk about that's not too old for this.
Bad Barbie.
Barbie.
We're gonna create
No, we
Bad
all thought it was that
Barbie.
at first when we seen that weird ass spelling.
Man,
But what the hell is it?
Bad baby.
Bad baby.
Get the fuck out of here.
BHABIE.
Get the fuck out of here.
Listen, man, it just sounds like I really missed out on like the good days of television
did
and
not.
content.
No,
Where-
absolutely.
One of the worst aspects of like missing school was being forced to watch daytime TV. It was
Damn.
like absolutely one
I
of the
take
most.
that back.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it at the time, but when you see some of that shit now, it really seems incredible. Like,
I might go back and watch
It's
some.
kind of, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like the vault. Like you're never gonna get the race wars anymore. That's not gonna show up on.
That's the
part
culture
you
is like
missed.
kind of put an end to.
Well, no,
a lot
I want to
this
see.
stuff.
I want to see some things that I'll never
Cancel.
see before. It's a
I'm
dumpster
sure
fire.
that, like you could just.
well, I
Google.
mean, CNN could probably get like the most views they would get this month if they did like if they got some Klansman and some random black guy to scream at each other. But it's like
Before
society
CNN
has
does
kind of
That's what they should
decided
have
that
done with CNN
we
Plus.
can't platform these people, right? Which makes sense. Like,
I mean,
Right.
during BLM, like they probably weren't that far off, you know.
true.
It was just like, let's get a hardcore Republican and somebody who's a part of the movement and see what happens whenever they interview the two of them together.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, they do that shit every day. Put a Republican and a Democrat on television.
yeah, but they
It's
won't
like,
put a
hey.
Klan leader.
Yeah, that's not the same as putting a Klansman on TV.
I don't know, man. David Duke almost got fucking voted into office.
That's
We're
true.
in weird times. Weird times. So you kind of spoke about like being a little intimidated to dip your toe into the culture, and that makes a little bit of sense. I would say basically the majority of your success now is the fact that you are pretty accredited when it comes to like the rap culture. Where do you think that transition like came from?
I really just like burrowed into it and just kept my head down and just started grinding. Like just, I was really like treating the podcast as kind of like this social networking game, like literally social networking, not social networking apps or whatever. Like I remember, just for a good example, there's this rapper Gangsta Boo who's a part of 3 6 Mafia, is a super legendary rap group. She hasn't even been cool with like the big rappers from that for years, but I saw that she was having a birthday party at this bar, so I go to the bar and I take a photo with her and post it so that I could tag her, so that I have an open DM with her, so that I can ask
Why'd
her
you
if
like
she'll
it?
do my podcast. And like, I was just like really playing this game of like
good.
how I can sort of like
Yeah.
rise up this ladder, and not to mention also like learn as much as I possibly can about everybody involved in that. But I also wasn't just doing rap. I was doing like a lot of YouTubers and other podcasters and porn stars. Like I just always, like when I started, I think Joe Rogan had like 400 episodes, and I just figured like, if I can get to 400 episodes, I bet I'll be way better at this than I am right now. So I
Yeah.
just kind of went crazy with it. Now he's at like 1900 or some shit, and I think I'm at least 1,000. I've been meaning to count. But,
See,
yeah.
that's why we're not going to make it.
Wait a minute.
This man,
Are we gonna make it to 400?
this man was hustling.
Wait a minute.
You gotta wait.
Running around the streets.
Wait a minute. I thought that
Hey,
we
hold
were
on.
going to make
Hold
it.
on, time out.
Me and Conrad push this podcast wherever we go. What are you doing out in the streets?
Yeah, literally, we don't leave the house. You either. But everyone at Bellagio is just like, we love the podcast. All the fucking Brits.
We're out there meeting people.
Yo, we go to the
telling
fucking
them-
coffee shop.
Yeah, what
we go
the
to
fuck?
fucking
Yeah.
Marshalls. The girl
We're in
at
the coffee
Marshalls
drive-thru.
is watching this podcast right now.
Hey, he's out there getting legendary rap groups with millions of followers to.
Go talk to a rapper or something. Aren't you famous?
Yeah, come on, famous guy.
He's diversified. He's out there talking.
When I was playing
YouTubers.
2-5 at the Win today, I didn't want to tell anybody I was going to Solve for Why, because I didn't want them to start treating me different.
Well, he probably would have got more action.
You
Not
got-
saying-
you get more
Start
action,
calling
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Conrad wears the patch and he gets tons of action.
Well, where I was going with this was I could see this getting to 400 episodes.
Oh,
And if
400
we-
episodes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if we
Yeah,
get
you
to
guys are doing
400
a lot now,
episodes,
yeah.
we'd be
We'd be 5
pretty
times a
fucking
week.
good. Yeah,
No,
it'd
no,
be
no.
quick.
I think we can get to 400 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't think we can find somebody with 20 million followers to like and tag us.
No, but
You
that
never
might happen
know.
along
But we
the
do
way.
have Adam.
You never know.
I'll do what I can. Yeah. But my audience, I mean, here's
No,
a
you just
fucking
gotta
topic.
put fuck 6ix9ine.
My audience doesn't really transfer very well to the poker
poker,
thing, which
yeah.
is like a sad state of affairs for poker, because my audience is very like young and, you know, just it just seems like a big fucking cultural blind spot for a lot of people. But then meanwhile, the people who watch my shit who are 35, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Or
Yeah.
they're the types who are more likely to play poker, which I think is like poker's biggest challenge. And obviously the legalization thing is pretty much the main
You
answer.
did an
but
interview-
No, you're spot on. Do you know what the biggest the biggest crowd or the main target audience for poker is?
like 40-year-old
It's like
Midwest.
it's late to early late 30s to early 40s.
Right.
White male, Midwestern, Republican who voted for Trump.
Yeah,
We're not hitting that target audience.
That's why my Twitch stream uploads on YouTube get like 10K. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like the younger generation, like if they're into gambling, it's generally going to be something more aggressive, something faster,
The
something
younger
that doesn't take
generation didn't
patience.
grow up with poker commercials and stuff like
Exactly.
that. So.
Right.
You did an interview with Helmuth, right? Mm-hmm. How'd that do in relation to
It
everything
might have got
else?
like 120K, which is like okay, but in comparison to Mikki getting
I was
like a
about to
couple
say.
million.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your interview with Mikki.
Yeah.
Mickey is a specimen.
This is a fact.
Great.
I had the pleasure of playing with him. He is a very unique creature. to say the least. What I guess give me your perspective, because he's kind of more in your world than mine, as weird as that may sound.
Right. I mean, my impression of him at first, and I kind of had to like apologize because he had reached out to a mutual friend before I even really knew that much about him. It was like, ask Adam if he wants to interview me. And I think my response to my friend was like, I just interviewed Phil Hellmuth. I'm not interviewing this random fucking scammer.
Yeah.
Which, even though we're cool now, I don't think is that unfair. Like, you know, you're going around saying you could beat Baccarat and all this stuff. It's kind of like, you know, my reflexive instinct is just say it's a scam, you know, like, and but then he kept going on Hustler and just like getting more and more attention. And eventually I kind of got more interested in him, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I mean, he held the interview down. He did a pretty good job of at least making me like think maybe there's a chance that there's some truth to some of this stuff. But, you know, I tried to ask him about poker and his strategy. He said he was working on getting better, which, I mean, I don't know if that's actually a real thing or not, but
yeah,
he's an interesting player.
Well, I think that he's probably beating a lot of the games that he plays. Maybe not a lot, but he's beating some of the games he plays. At least he's competitive. He's not going to get to the point where he's profitable in an open game or even in those Hustler lineups, but he's a gambler. So, like, that's kind of okay. What I find to be more fascinating, like having watched your interview and having watched another one that he did, I can't remember the guy's name, but effectively this guy did a deep dive on Mikki and kind of like came out and said, like, these are all the reasons why he's a scammer. And then Mikki reached out to him and said, like, why don't you just interview me?
Spencer Cornelia.
Yeah.
Spencer Cornelia. He does a bunch of deep dives on scamming shit.
Really fascinating. Like, he kind of swayed his opinion the other way.
Right.
I'm a little bit more of a skeptic. I just don't really buy into the idea of like taking negative EV gambles and finding a way to spin it positive.
Right.
But, you know, I believe that the guy is legit out there gambling.
Right. Because, I mean, there's a bunch of people, like, I've had people ask me to do interviews who are just straight up, like, sports betting scammers, and they live in Vegas, and that's their whole thing, is that they just lie and just paint this picture of them as making all this money from sports betting.
And they
whatever.
sell their paid group.
Yeah, so that's the group that I put Mikki in, whereas I think with Mikki, it's more like he does this crazy gambling to build this brand that who knows what he's planning on doing with it, which I respect, you know, like that. You know, if you're telling people like I'm selling picks on my website, that's kind of different. Whereas like I don't see Mikki, like I haven't seen like the fans who are complaining about Mikki taking their fucking lunch money from them.
Yeah, like I don't even know if it's a money thing, man. I think he might just be like leveraging it to get laid.
Yeah, well, the stories about his sex appetite on my podcast were like the craziest shit I ever heard in my fucking life. So, and I know some crazy like pussy fiends.
I was about to say, like,
you know,
coming
some
from you, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Bro, I mean, I never, he's saying like 5, 6 different hotel rooms. He has the whole floor of the hotel room booked. I'm like, this doesn't sound fun at all.
Like they're just like all in different rooms, and he just like goes in one, exits, and goes into another.
Yeah, who are the women that are on board for this, and why do you want to do this? Because I don't think sex is that fun.
That sounds miserable.
Who was your dad?
Like it's okay, but you know we have our limits.
Who hurt you?
The law of diminishing returns kicks in pretty quickly with
Yeah.
sex, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, I think that's true, unless you're able to monetize it.
Which he's not, which I am. But
Which you are.
Yeah.
Carries me into my next topic conversation.
Wait, time out. I want to ask something before we get into the like fucking and shit.
Fucking shit.
What's like where do you see like your difference between you and like Vlad TV? Because like I feel like your rep is like one where people like give you cred, and like the rep for Vlad in the hip hop industry is like people don't fuck with him.
it's weird because Vlad, like, I feel like he's the most misrepresented, like unfairly treated person in rap because I look up to him so much. He guided me into this game. Like he came and fucking picked me up in his Tesla and took me to the mall and we ate Chinese food one time and just let me pick his brain. And I just found, I learned so much from talking to him because he starts telling me like, he's like, bro, I fucking interviewed Cardi B before she was shit. He starts telling me all these interviews that he did so long ago. He interviewed Tupac's rape accuser, which to a lot of people might sound kind of like sketchy or whatever, but I think that's an important historical document. You know, people are going to be talking about Tupac for hundreds of years.
Yeah, like that's mid-90s, man.
Yeah,
early 90s.
I mean, he just kind of like made me realize the real value of content early on, which I would say that even now, still to this day, like every hour of content I film is worth so much more to me at this point than it was even a couple of years ago, in the sense that I know way more ways to make money off it, and I would assume that that's only going to increase from here and probably not ever go down. But with Vlad, I mean, I think he gets that reputation because he was the first person to popularize doing clips of people talking and titling it super accurately, which I have that problem all the time where I'll put out a clip, it's titled accurately, and then people get mad, and I say, how are you going to go on a podcast and then get mad at me for describing the thing that you said in the podcast? But he, you know, a lot of people just take these fucking lumps when you're the first one through the wall, you know? So like now, so much of what he did was considered like totally fucking insane. But now in the age of TikTok, it's like, yes, of course.
Right.
If you do an hour-long podcast, you need to find the best 5-minute clip or the best 1-minute clip and highlight that. And, you know, he has got a lot of shit for kind of like doing like interviews where he's very much asking people what their criminal background or like I mean, he's told me though that he will call the fucking police department to find out, or the county clerk or whatever it is, to find out if this is an open case, like if it would be irresponsible for him to ask somebody about a violent crime or whatever, and so that he has like extra assurance that he's not getting anyone in trouble. Like, but I do think that stylistically the big difference between us is that, like, I always use Kamaya as an example because he did an interview with her that was like really good, like really going into all these different controversies that she had been a part of that I thought were really, like, it was just great questions. He got all the answers out of her, and then I ended up doing an interview with like 6 months later, and I was worried that it was going to be a fucking, you know, I always say people who just redo other people's interviews is like a fucking cover band thing, and I don't want to ever be just doing like boring generic content like that. But I got like such a different vibe from her, and she was like really telling me like intimate shit about her life and who she is as a person. And I feel like that's really my goal, is just to make the conversation seem as comfortable and laid back. And I think I realized like really early on that if you just let people like smoke cigarettes and smoke weed and drink and whatever, that alone will like make them so much more comfortable, even though I don't think she did any of that. But that's how I try to approach it, is I just want to, I do want to get to the clickbait stuff if possible, but I really want to just have like the most open,
it's
real
like an open dialogue conversation
possible,
type
you know?
thing. How long ago was this, I guess, your first interaction with Vlad versus now? Like, how long ago was that? Like,
Probably
when he picked up the
2018.
Tesla and went to go
4 or 5 years ago.
And what was your content like before that and then after, if anything changed?
I mean, it was very similar. He just kind of like made me realize like how important it could be. And I see that over and over and over, because the X interview is a good example where it got millions of views while he was still alive, and then he died, and it just became this fucking insanely important historical document about his life, you know, and this insanely raw version of him when he was young and didn't have any sense about what you should or shouldn't talk about on a podcast, basically. And
this was the first thing that X did.
He had never been on camera, and it's weird when I look back at it, because it's like my biggest success, but then it's also, I mean, I probably wouldn't do that interview now. Like, it was very, very small. It just seemed cool. And it was a weird thing too, where the numbers didn't seem that impressive, but I was just getting comments and comments just over and over and over. And he had such a weird name that it made me kind of pay attention to it, you know? You sometimes wonder though, if you're gonna like there's been so many shots that I missed, like so many interviews that if I had done it, it would have been insanely epic, and I just didn't see the vision early on. But
that's always gonna happen though.
And that's why I take as many shots as possible.
Sort of
now,
investing in your interviewers or interviewees.
It is. It's like investing. Yeah.
Who's your biggest miss, you think?
Well, I was on live stream. We do this thing on live stream where people can donate like $100 and we'll play your song and review it. And the reality is that it's just like a bunch of guys smoking weed in a fucking warehouse and just talking shit. And like, I saw Meg the Stallion on there like a couple years before she blew up. And I don't know if she donated it or her manager or what, but
someone did.
I remember having the thought process of like, yeah, like, you know, she's rapping all right and she's pretty good looking, but my mind is so attuned to like be weary of stripper rappers, because I like, that's like every strip club in America. There's some drug dealer that finds the hottest girl in the strip club and says, I'm going to write these raps for you and you're going to rap them and you're going to be a big star. And like that warning bell was kind of going off in my head, which in retrospect.
That's how poker staking works. Huh? That's how poker staking works.
Yeah.
Just walk through the Bellagio and be like, there's the hottest girl in the. I'm going to stake you. We're going to coach you up. I'm sorry, Melissa.
What is that? That's so rude. What does this say about
absolutely rude.
I mean, you're here.
That's true.
I don't know. But
I'm still waiting to get walk-bys of staking offers, though.
Yeah,
offers
keep waiting.
Yeah,
go to the South Point.
No, you're protected now, is what I'm saying. You have the only friends.
No, they just think that we're staking her.
Yeah,
everyone thinks that. Yeah. Even at 1.3, they're like, "Oh, so you're backed for this?" I'm like, "No."
No, the comments be wild.
$300.
They're like, "Who's the chick and who's fucking her?" I'm like,
I was just about to say.
Jesus.
I know. Why aren't any of you jumping on her right now? Jesus Christ, I have a taser. No one jump on me, okay? No one jump on me.
A lot of people.
jumper.
There's a lot of people.
Jumpers.
No jumping, yeah.
No
There's a lot of
jumpers.
people in poker that their ability to talk to women could use some improvement.
Oh my God.
Honestly, having grown up an athlete my whole life and like witnessing misogyny at like its rawest form, it doesn't even compare to poker because this industry is intelligent. So when the misogyny like shines through, it's so much grimier and sleazy and disgusting. You know what I mean? Like it's people who have high intellect that are trying to like mask like what pieces of shits they are based off of like some level of feeling empowered as, you know, just being a
Most
rich
of them
white
are dumb
guy
as
with
rocks. Most
a
of the
lot
guys
of them are
who
dumb
make
as fuck when in this very specific part of life that poker has not at all prepared you for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The EQ in this realm is not all that high.
But I've had that on the Hustler where people start trying to talk to me about porn, and there's like some fucking 40-year-old lady sitting next to me that like it's just so obviously not appropriate for you to be saying this to me in front of this. And really, like with poker, I feel like you should be kind of careful about what you're talking about at the table in
Yeah.
general, because
Absolutely.
nobody at that table has consented to being a part of this conversation. You know?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people just clearly don't get that. So I give these sort of like weird shrug it off
Right,
answers.
especially if they know you, because they feel like it's like their one chance to say something / have that conversation and just
Yeah.
completely forget that other people exist.
Yeah,
Where it's like,
yeah.
oh, I have this really important question, I'm gonna ask it to you, and I don't care how uncomfortable it makes someone else feel.
Across the table. And shit.
Right.
Hey, so what's it like doing porn?
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, my sweet dears." My lord.
Pearl clutchers.
Yeah.
Pearl clutch.
Did you use a pump? Like, Jesus.
Before you actually answer the question of what it's like doing porn, you kind of mentioned something there that I thought was interesting, where you were kind of saying that now you understand better ways to make money off of like anything that you do socially. And I think that social clout is very similar to acquiring wealth in a certain way. Like as that follower count goes up, as your platforms expand, it almost becomes easier to get to the next big number, right? Like same as you accrue 100,000, a million's not that far away, where 0 to 100 might have been like incredibly difficult. Do you see that, like, or I guess let me reframe it. Do you think if you had to start again from scratch, all of the same avenues to expand and scale would necessarily be available? Or do you think that it's largely a byproduct of like who you are at this point and the platform you've created?
Well, it's weird because I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. If I could go right now and talk to myself at like 18, I think I could explain to myself how to accomplish everything I've accomplished now in like a year.
Right.
You know, like I could tell myself everything I need to know, which is weird because a lot of that information was openly available at that time. I was just too young and stupid to figure out how to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, the being early on social media and stuff has been, I mean, that BMX website I started, if I had started it 2 years later, it wouldn't have mattered at all.
Yeah.
You know, because I was just first there. Like my BMX website was basically like responsible for causing all the BMX magazines to go out of business, because we just did such a better job that they kind of like became irrelevant, and they hung on for a while and tried to do their own websites and stuff. And for the most part, it just kind of didn't work out. And even with rap, it's the same thing. Like now I'm competing against like, you know, a rapper could go do an interview with Nori, who's like, you know, famous rapper, like, you know, all these like huge names that have like really like earned their spot in hip hop as a whole a lot more than me. Whereas I've kind of earned it just from podcasting. And yeah, I definitely spend a lot of time thinking about that. But in general, like, I don't know. I feel like if you're really good, if your personality is that good, and that's what I kind of wonder, like, is my personality that good, or was I just early and like really thoughtful and like hardworking at this? But I mean, that kind of thought process is what leads me towards doing 10 podcasts in a week and shit like that, where I just don't want to miss out on any of the opportunities, you know?
Yeah. Is that the area that you're like looking to scale the most, or is like this new venture into OnlyFans and things of that nature kind of piquing your interest?
Right now, I'm definitely just doing both to the max, but I'm kind of finally getting to the point where with the podcasting thing, it's like I need to, like, even something like coming out here for a few days to do other people's podcasts, like that was really, really hard for me to justify to myself like a year or two ago, because it was just like, I need to get every last dollar that I'm making from this thing. And now finally, like, I've been able to kind of like peek my head out a little bit more and be like, you know, like, you're going to be fine. Like, you really, like, like if you make like, if you grind out all these interviews and you make an extra 20K this month or this week or whatever, it's like, it's not really going to change anything. So maybe you should not make yourself miserable by using every ounce of your ability to do this. But then also it's like, if I hire someone who is good on camera or even has potential on camera, which I've figured out a bunch of people at this point, like our fucking team could probably have like 8 people on it realistically, and some of them get way more views than me realistically on their podcast. And that's like, if it takes me, you know, a day on average to like find one good person, I mean, that just yields so much crazier fucking dividends over time. So I'm really, and just hiring people in general is like the most important thing that I've always kind of like pushed off, because I was spending so much of my time doing interviews. So I'm trying to like actively, like I notice when I'll have a day where I have 3 interviews planned, and then for some reason 2 of them cancel, so I only have to do 1, and I get to spend a lot of time with my team. And then all of a sudden it's like, that just gets me so much further ahead. Or another example would be like our Instagram. Like, we make 6 figures a month off our Instagram from just selling posts to rappers who want their music promoted or whatever. And when we started at Instagram, I never would have imagined that we would have made any money at all from it. And now we find ourselves in a position where, you know, like, it just makes sense for me to keep hiring people to keep the Instagram lively and keep growing it so we could charge more or get more posts or whatever. Like, just getting your social media shit going early is like, there will just be rewards that come from that you would never expect, you know?
I see so many parallels between the industry that I don't even want to pigeonhole you necessarily to like the rap industry as a whole, but like even your ancillary interests, like everything that you're kind of involved in. I see so many parallels between that and poker, in the sense that you largely picked arenas that lack media, right?
Yes.
Like rap coverage for the longest time was just this late night show on MTV hosted by Fab Five Freddy called Yo MTV Raps, and then like XXL or you know, a couple other maybe the Source magazine and a few others. But outside of that, like, it was such a niche culture that so much of you know, the older baby boomer generation was backlash against, and you know, there was just no media coverage whatsoever. And they kind of went through that stale period until the technological revolution of like the early to mid 2000s. And at that point now, you just have a bunch of independent sources. It wasn't like some conglomerate popped up out of nowhere and started taking over this industry, at least not that I'm aware of anyway, right? So now an independent source like you, like, do you consider yourself to be a bit of a news outlet for arenas like this?
Yeah, and if anything, I'm trying to get more serious about the news shit. I want to like have like an actual blog so that we can like do more in-depth writing about the stuff that we're covering on Instagram. And I keep hiring people to help us do more like actual journalism, and I keep trying to like push my team and be like, when a story comes out, like, we just don't want to be the people who are reiterating the same bullshit, because you see it a lot now. And I don't know if this happens in poker so much, but in rap, it's like the fake news is so much more appealing to people that these rumors will just get going so fast, and you'll see like actual credible media outlets just jumping on it. And it's like a lot of times, like for an example, there was this whole thing, Roddy Ricch got shot at, they tried to take his jewelry in Miami while he was out there. And I see this and I'm like, oh my God, I got to post this right away. I got to get this to the team. We got to do a post about it. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call his manager. I call his manager and he said, no, somebody else got robbed like down the street. It had nothing to do with us. and I'm sitting there like, well, that kind of sucks, because now I'm not going to get any fucking views on it. You know, like, well, the correction, that could be the post. And, you know, we're bringing something to the table by posting the correction. But it's like, you know, if I had not called him, we would have just got a bunch of views off it, which is like, the incentives are all fucked up.
But it keeps you, but it keeps you real though, because some of the heat that people got from like some podcasts, are like, for example, like the Fresh and Fit pod, like was exactly like people were like, they flamed them because they thought they were fake and like they were doing shit. I hope that they're not under your team. I don't know what your team is.
I've hung out with them. I fuck with them. They did their first like real interview with us, I think. But yeah,
but basically like people are like, oh, like these guys are like, they're not real. Like they're putting on a show for the camera. And I think with your pod and your image, like people like they fuck with you because they feel like you're real. Like you're even just like not taking the clickbait is like, oh, I could just call awesome one instead of like taking the easy route. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I aspire to do a better job with the news stuff in general because I mean something like Rihanna and A$AP Rocky, they broke up because Rocky fucked a member of her design team. Just some random guy tweeted it and the whole internet ran with it. And it was just not true. Like there was like no fucking truth to it at all. I mean, there's probably a bunch of people I could have called, but I wasn't thinking about it that day. But like somebody on our team posted it. Rumors are going out saying this, yada yada, and it's just like, I mean, people should hold themselves to a higher standard. That's one good thing about poker, though, is that everybody tends to be a little bit more intellectual and is less likely to
we err way too far on the side of caution. Like all the shit that's coming out right now with cheating. I don't know how closely you've been following it.
Very.
Sadly,
I don't know why.
Make a no jumper post about it.
It's so in your face. It's hard to not.
I mean, it's tea, right? It's clickable. It's very a hot button issue, and but the thing is like Christian and I, we've been podcasting for, this is going on probably our 3rd year or so. And for a long time, it was just a weekly thing where it was just us. And we would bring up these issues all the time, but we were doing it with like this insider information where it was absolutely condemnable to release names, or at least it was negligence, right? To release names in any way, shape, or form where all you have is secondhand information. So we would just talk about it loosely, and we would get so much fucking blowback because to everybody else, it looks like we're the ones poo-pooing on the industry, saying like, you shouldn't play online poker, scare all the wrecks away, like, fuck this game, it's dying. Like we're the old guard that's kind of just like shitting on it and saying like it's over with. But really all it is that like we're privy to a lot of information. And so like when a story finally breaks, it sucks because in one regard, you don't get to be the person who's breaking it. And even if you are, it looks like you're doing it just for the clicks. And it looks like you're hanging on to the storyline just to stay relevant and have people pass through. But it's like, I don't want to fucking talk about this. This is the last thing. I'm here to kick it with 6 of my friends and like talk shit and, you know, talk about Tinder nightmares and things like that, because that to me is entertaining. And like, that's what this is really all about. But you can't pass on something when it's like the guy who's number 1 on the all-time money list was potentially running like a 10-person stable where all the money's funneling up to him. He's taking rake and he's like executing against his horse. You have to talk about that shit.
Yeah, I mean, the Apostle thing was probably the last time there was something this big, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I came home from work that day like exhausted and was still like looking at my YouTube feed like, oh, I got to pick between Berkey and Doug. Who am I going to listen to talk about this shit? And I ended up watching both like a fucking loser. But
No, that people do say that though. Even they're like, man, I just watched one and then the other, and then it's like the other, and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, well, watch us first. It's okay.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the sad truth is that there's very little positive that can happen in our space that would garner this much attention. And the only negative things that are going to happen are going to be theft, cheating, or death. And it's like, that's a really shitty thing to know that like the majority of your clicks, if you are out here doing it day in and day out, is going to be in that regard.
Yeah, like there's no real feel-good story that can kind of reach the same amount of audience and exposure as something like this.
People are winning something every other day too.
Exactly.
So it's
Think about Vanessa fucking had the whole thing with Dan Bilzerian and then wins 1.5 million like a week later.
Yeah.
And I mean, how far did that story travel? Like, I thought it was pretty great, but you know, it's not exactly something that you're going to do a 2-hour podcast about, right? You know?
right.
Yeah.
You can't.
That was a great storyline. That's like the best storyline I could think of. They should make a movie about that.
See, but that's the best thing you have, right?
computer.
The best thing you have is a movie about this thing. It's like, there's got to be something better.
Right. That's kind of like the problem. Even like when Doug challenged Daniel heads up, like Daniel's one of the biggest names in all of poker. By far, he has the largest social media platform of anybody in poker, right? So he has the most reach. This kid comes out, he beats him for $1 million straight, and then whatever side bets they potentially have. And it's like, he was literally going around DMing anybody with a podcast saying like, I'm willing to talk, I'm willing to be on, willing to be a guest. So it's like he has to like manufacture his own fucking victory lap because we are that jaded and care that little.
Yeah.
It's like after 24 hours passed, that was yesterday's news, man. We don't care.
That shit is crazy. Yeah, and I mean, like I have that problem where I have a lot of friends who they like gambling, they like playing craps or whatever. The idea, like, I have such a hard time even comprehending how to explain poker to somebody who doesn't actually play because
it's so hard.
I feel like I alienate them so quick when I'm like, no, you're not supposed to raise that hand there. And they're like, what? Like, I'm playing the game. I'm having fun. Like, that idea alone.
It's
that,
like, what do you mean
no, there's
you
a
can't?
right and a wrong way to play this, and you raising that hand there is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
Right. Like,
Doesn't sound that fun to a lot of people, right?
right. Like
Yeah.
once you start quantifying like mistakes, it's like, whoa. What do you mean? Like
Start
I
talking
can't.
about percentages.
Right. I
and
can't do
it's-
this. Like, what do you mean I can't play the hand I want to? Like, why is that bad? And you tell them why it's bad, and then they hit you with like,
This is
"Well,
my style."
But yeah, this is what I do. Like, I know I can get away with this. And
That's
you start-
also kind of the problem that we face, being like some sort of outlet for entertainment or news or whatever the case may be, is that the secondary version of the most clicks that we can possibly get is to cater to the diehards. So if we do a strategy episode on high stakes poker, we'll blow it out. But the problem is that we've now segregated the audience between the people that are scalable, right? The people who are in their entry level in their journey, or like are just hobbyists or find an interest in the personalities in poker. We push them right away because we're talking about frequencies, we're talking about sizings, we're talking about all these little nuances that it takes years to really get a deep comprehension of. And we nail the diehards, but the diehards aren't loyal. They're also watching, you know what I mean? Like they're just floating around space to space. And eventually, if you stick around long enough, they'll just grow to hate you. So it's just like this weird proposition where the growth within this industry, it's so clearly, at least it's clear to me, the growth is within becoming the media platform, right? Taking over that space as much as you possibly can. But it's like this double-edged sword where it's like, okay, you're also just going to be a tabloid to some degree. And then secondarily, you don't have any journalistic integrity. Like, it's not like that's our background or anything along those lines. So now we have to find like human resources, or not human resources,
Bro,
human
freedom of
interest
speech-
pieces. And
freedom of speech is a right to everybody.
We have that again. Elon bought Twitter. Now we have free speech again.
that's somewhat true.
It's a right.
Also, he's gonna buy Coca-Cola. Put
Yeah,
the
he wants
cocaine
to put
back
the
in.
cocaine
Yeah,
back
put
in
the Coke
Coca-Cola.
You're joking, right?
No,
Well,
no,
he
no,
did
no,
say
No, he
that.
said it.
He
I
said
think
it.
he was.
This guy's off his fucking rocker.
Yeah, the best
said it
one
today.
is somebody photoshopped.
McDonald's.
Yes, the McDonald's one, saying that Elon said he was going to fix all the ice cream machines at McDonald's, and Elon retweets it. He's like, "I'm no miracle worker, man."
But that was happening today while I was playing, and it wasn't even enough for me to send it to somebody, because at this point his crazy tweeting is just kind of like
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
far,
he's
you know?
for his age, he's next level meme culture. Like
it's
he's
true.
really on top of it.
Loves me.
Because
know.
all these
Sometimes
like
it feels a
Silicon
little-
Valley CEOs, they all get rich and don't really seem like they have that much fun with it. And he
Right.
seems like the guy who's like, oh, I've made the most money I could possibly make. I'm gonna date fucking Grimes, and I'm gonna, it seems to me like he's like doing weird drugs behind the scenes.
Oh,
and
for
all this
sure.
shit.
Absolutely.
Bro, I interviewed a girl who fucking her OnlyFans thing is that she pretends to be a dog, and like her dudes will like walk her around on a leash and shit, and she loves it. Like
Isn't her boyfriend a poker player?
Whoa.
not that I know of,
Did-
although there might be a
Wait,
couple
wait,
of dog
wait,
girls
I've
out
seen
here.
it.
You told me this.
Yes, I've seen this. Fuck. Who is it?
Someone on Hustler.
I don't know, but we need to have him on the pod too.
You
Well,
said,
I
you
think
said,
there's
oh,
more
that
than one,
girl.
so that's actually
someone.
I don't think the guy's a poker player, but that's amazing
Oh.
if there's a couple of them.
There might be a few, yeah.
You're outing the other guy secretly.
Well, anyway, some girl randomly told me that Elon Musk fucked her, so that really blew my mind.
Wow.
He's really living life out here.
Wow.
God damn.
But yeah, he's having a good time, dude. Like, I mean, I don't know. I still can't really like wrap my head around what he plans to do with Twitter, because it's like
I know.
he said he wanted to turn it into a public resource. Like that's not what you get investors to buy something for, right?
Unless
And-
the investor is just him.
And we're gonna allow more crazy stuff. Like you're gonna be able to misgender people and stuff, and like that doesn't seem like a recipe for getting more money for ads.
yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck the plan is, but
Yeah.
I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's all kind of fascinating to watch unfold. I do have this weird trust in him that I probably shouldn't, and he doesn't deserve.
Same.
But like for some
don't.
reason, I just feel like he's the most responsible of the
Just believe
billionaires.
it.
I don't
Just
trust
believe
him.
in it.
I don't
You gotta
trust
just
him.
believe in him.
Because if he was a poker player, you would love to invest in his career.
You're
Because
right.
he clearly has performed so well at everything he's done.
Yeah, he's gonna be the winningest poker
Bro,
player.
he would get in the sickest. He would get in the sickest games for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But just something about him makes me think that he cares more about pushing the envelope of like technology and finding ways to hack. I don't want to say truth necessarily, but like reality and like an augmented reality that's much closer to what we believe to be fair. It seems like that goal and mission of his is stronger than any impulse to just be an overall overlord of social media.
You're
or
drinking
otherwise.
the Elon Kool-Aid.
Yeah, bro, just buy.
I'm just saying, if I have to pick between him and Zuck, I'm fucking all in on Elon.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
Yeah,
Zuck
that's
just
the
seems like a
lesser of two
goddamn
evils.
That's an easy
sociopath.
One. An easy one. Bro.
Zuck is literally an alien, so that's an easy one.
Wait. So let's go.
Feels like we should
Bezos.
get Elon on the podcast.
Yeah,
Bezos.
Okay, if you have
Bezos
to
first.
trust with your life,
Yeah.
Bezos or Zuck?
Oh, Bezos.
Yeah?
I wouldn't trust Zuck with my fucking dog. I wouldn't trust Zuck with anything.
You wouldn't
Zuck
trust your dog with a lot of people.
Zuck or Hitler?
Ooh.
God damn.
I mean, Zuck, but like, I think Zuck's more powerful than Hitler, which is scary.
Hitler's dead.
If
so.
I needed someone to
That's
protect
true.
anything, I'm taking Putin. Like, bro.
Zuck or Putin?
You are part of the fucking dark side, man.
Dark side is fun.
Have you met
No, he's
Christian
the-
Dark Side?
He's the
Soto?
richest person without. Bro, listen.
You're just
Yeah, but
always
he's not
like,
gonna help
who's
you."
the slimiest motherfucker that I know will have my back?
How do you know he's going to help you?
Yet I'm here with you.
It sounds like we should.
I'm the angel on your shoulder to counteract all the fucking devils that keep piling up.
Anyway, Adam, did you know this was a porn house?
Yeah, no joke. So we rent this place, right? Really funny. I don't want to blow up his spot, but one of my friends, he comes in, he goes, "I've seen this place." And within like minutes, Google searches and pulls up like all these naughty America porns. One girl's like getting fucked in the dryer, another girl's on our island downstairs. I'm like, God damn, this place is disgusting.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it makes a lot of sense, like the way that the loft is structured, like it's perfect for production. You know,
The floor's kind of squeaky.
Yeah. It's a little shaky.
That kind of like comes to mind.
Test it out.
it's true. There was a bed against this wall. It was so
stomping on
weird
the
too.
floor.
Like when you watch the set, this entire upstairs is just empty, with like a bed and like floral colored walls.
Well, there's a
and
nice
then like a curtain.
lighting.
Oh yeah. Well, we rented out a porn house one time to film something, and it's like every different room you walk into is like a different world. There's like
Whoa.
a oriental massage type thing. There's like a burger restaurant. There's a fucking every
sounds
different
good.
room is a different
Office.
world.
That's what I wanted to do this place, only, not for porn. I wanted to have like every room be a set of sorts.
Right.
So like up here would be for the podcast, like right below it would be for Poker Out Loud.
Right.
Adjacent to that would be like for the academies that we run. But it's
Sus.
hard, man. It's expensive.
The
Sus.
sound.
Yeah, the sound is brutal.
That's got to be a tough part.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this place isn't soundproof. I get notes on every
Bro,
single
porn
episode.
did it.
What?
Porn could figure
They
out
don't
the
care
sound.
about sound, man.
Well, but they're probably not filming multiple scenes at the same time, right?
Nah, and
I don't know.
They don't
Yeah.
care if there's a little echo when someone's squealing. Like,
Oh
it's
my.
not that important.
You know, I heard
Feeling.
about a dude who had to reshoot a fucking porn because once they had already shot it, they realized the dog was running around in the backyard.
No way.
And that's like, and I'm like, I never thought about it, but that does make sense. Like, I would never be able to jerk off to something where there's a fucking dog in the background.
True.
Yo, that's nuts.
I don't see the problem, man. My pups have seen way too much.
Yo, come on, dude.
Guys being scouted bared witness. I'm just
Landon, the
saying.
voice of reason right there.
I'm scared.
You can let them out.
terrified.
Nah, they.
No, they'll scratch at the door.
Yeah, they'll scratch at
They'll
the door.
scratch
They
at
want to
the
be a
door.
part of it.
Rudy's the same way. He wants to lick my hand and give me
Oh,
comfort.
come on, man. This is I don't need a sex support animal.
He wants to be there for emotional support.
Jesus Christ.
He's like, "Are you all right, Mom?"
Why do you make those sounds like that?
Damn.
Landon's
man.
so
He's
uncomfortable.
Landon is so.
Mom, are
Let's
you
double
dying?
down. What has the OnlyFans experience been like for you so far?
All right,
Other
so
than raking in infinite money.
right. So when I met my girl, 2016 or 17 or whenever I met her, right away after we met, she said, "Do you think I should do a private Snapchat?" I said, "What is that?" She's like, basically, it's like people can pay $5 and then I'll post dirty photos on there or whatever. And I was like, who the fuck would ever do that? I'm like, a lot of people had the reaction like, Pornhub is
Yeah.
free. Why would anybody be
That
giving
was
you
my
$5 a
reaction.
month?
Yeah.
She signed up. She made $30,000 month one, which has gone up a lot since then, to say the least. But she was just grinding it out, like just doing this stuff, kind of figuring it out with OnlyFans and stuff. And like, meanwhile, I'm doing the no jumper thing, and I'm really like pushing her, like, you need to figure out how you're gonna make it like a real business out of this. So even in the beginning, she was signing girls and sort of managing girls' shit and like helping run their careers and stuff, which she kind of fell back on for a while. But then pretty much like right before the pandemic, we started to kind of conceptualize this idea. And needless to say, like, I just started shooting with her and just doing stuff and kept getting more and more comfortable doing stuff on camera and realizing that people didn't really like care as much as I would have assumed that they would. That like, you know, it is weird sometimes rappers will just bring it up, and I'm like, all right, that is something that
You're
probably
like, hey, I love your work.
it seems like a big deal.
Seen the other day.
No, I was doing cardio the other day, and this fat fucking lawn care guy, you know, he goes, "You a pimp?" And I just, you know exactly what he is.
Yo, that's funny as
Man,
This guy's seen my dick. Well, that's great.
But there's this guy Vitaly who was like an OG YouTuber, and he had a site called Vitaly Uncensored that I don't even know if it still exists because he has some crazy lawsuit now or criminal charges where he attacked a woman by jumping out of a bush or something. But
That's fine.
the company he was working with that was helping him do this site, which was basically like him doing pranks where like the girls would be naked at some point or like the top would come off or whatever, which is so stupid sounding to me. But he said he's making all this money doing it. The company that he's doing it with starts talking to me about it. They're trying to push us to go in like this sort of, you know, oh, the girls will show their nipples at some point or whatever. And like me and my girl are just having the conversation, and we ended up landing on the idea of like a podcast where we fuck at the end of it. And I just didn't feel like we could get to a better idea than that. Like people pay for podcasts all the time, like, you know, extra episodes on Patreon or whatever. People obviously are comfortable with paying for porn on OnlyFans and stuff like that. So we just kind of dove in and just started shooting episodes, and then she got pregnant. And so that significantly pushed back our timeline with this. But I think we've been live for like 5 months, and we drop 1 episode per week. And a large percentage of them have been us having sex with the girl. But we just did our first couple episode where it's like a couple that works together, and we interviewed them together, and then they film together. And a lot of times I'll have like male porn stars now who they'll do whatever with the girl. We had a girl lose her anal virginity after the interview the other day with a male porn star. Oh. And yeah, it's definitely been significant.
Honestly, this is kind of this is very Howard Stern-esque with the ability to actually go the whole way.
Yeah,
right. Like what he conceptualized in words. Yeah, you guys are kind of like just fulfilling.
Because I grew up on that shit, and I used to think that the queef contest was the most brilliant thing I'd ever seen. You know, but at a certain point, Howard like decided that porn was bad and that he didn't want to associate himself with this. And like, you know, for me, I don't have any of that. I think it's great.
It's crazy because I have such a strong recollection of like so much Jenna James on Howard Stern and so much of like the old guard with regard to the porn industry. And he was so intimately fixed with them.
That's a great point that people don't talk about, that he was a huge factor in kind of like mainstreamifying porn, which now, even over the past like 5 years, like I don't think people talk about that much, has happened so much. It's so much more normal for somebody to do porn. When I started interviewing porn stars, people acted like it was the most fucking heretic thing you could ever thought of to interview a rapper one day and interview Riley Reid the next day. Right. Whereas to me, I'm like, she is a young person making a way for herself in this world. She's an interesting person to me. Why the fuck would I not want to interview her? You know, right. Like, and especially at that time, and even now to some extent, I feel like people just don't do smart porn interviews where you actually try to get to know the person. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of these girls, not a lot, some of these girls are not really that full of depth. Like there's not that much to know, you know, like a lot of the girls are young or just kind of like whatever. They don't have a lot to say, but like, I mean, also, we have really, really amazing conversations on the podcast and stuff. And yeah, I like with the Plug Talk thing, though, I think of it as like a real, I want to build it out into this real media company. And we have a bunch of different products per se, like different styles of video content that we're working on and like all this kind of stuff that we want to do. Like, I just feel like when I looked at hip hop, when I started doing podcasts, my thought process was I'm listening to Joe Budden talk to his co-hosts about rap every week. Combat Jack was like my mentor at the time, who actually like co-signed me and signed me to his network at a certain point. But he was someone I was looking at like, oh, you're interviewing all these old school rappers and like people from the 90s and shit. But I got all these like 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids around me that are like, I know their music videos do millions of views, but nobody's like taking them serious enough to do an interview with them. And some of those were like the biggest smash hits. And same thing with the porn thing, kind of like, I just feel like there's so much money being left on the table in terms of that kind of content that it's just, I'm just like hiring people as quick as possible. We only have 1 employee on that right now, but we're trying to just like build that team and just, I feel like there's infinite shit that we could do under that umbrella.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm like super fascinated.
Did nobody catch how good that name is? Plug Talk?
Yeah, that's really, it's really good.
My girl is Leno the Plug.
Yeah.
Which is almost kind of weird because then sometimes people think it's like her thing or that I am just like there once in a while or whatever. It's
You're an
50-50. Yeah, it's with us, which but it can be kind of odd.
It's so wild to me how much money there is in this space when things are.
So that was what I was going to say. Like, what fascinates me is you've taken two things that are free, podcast and porn, but they're billion-dollar industries, and you're finding ways to scale. How sustainable, like how scalable is this industry as a whole? Like when I could just go to a website and watch for free.
Yeah, but once you really get in the game, and that's one thing about porn fans, and if you go to like the porn convention or whatever, you will see the porn fans and you'll realize that they are a fucking thing. Like they are out there with their phones filming everything. And like,
by the way, one of the best times of the year to be playing poker is during the AVN Awards.
That's a great idea.
When is that?
January.
Okay.
Right?
January, yeah.
Wow, we should go to a porn
Rodeo
convention.
also coincides with the
because we're gonna
AVN
do a
Awards.
I would
booth and shit
love to
this year.
film Landon's journey at the porn
Oh,
convention.
yeah.
That'd be great
That's one
content.
of the greatest ideas.
I'm sure
We're
it is.
going.
We'll put a GoPro on his head, and it'll be pointed at his face, so it's like,
And like a
the
heartbeat
React
monitor.
cam, and a
Yeah.
heart rate monitor.
My heartbeat's going through the roof right now thinking about it. Fuck,
There's
man.
so many funny things you'll see. Like the number one way that you could tell who a male porn star is that they don't have a shirt on. That they'll just be wearing jeans. Like if I was in there and I took my shirt off, everybody would immediately like recognize that I'm a porn star.
There's the one guy that has the alphabet on his leg. You know
Yeah,
that guy?
that could help. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
Great
But,
talent.
We're not going to yuck your yum. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's great. I think they call him.
The alphabet man.
I forget, but he's like a skinny string bean weird guy.
Sure.
You're on
How
your
do
own on
how
this
do
one,
you-
kid.
Don't yuck my
avoid-
yum.
So you spoke a little bit about the Joey pod, and obviously there was a huge fallout with Rory and Maul. How do you avoid those things with your team as it gets bigger and bigger?
I mean, it's weird because if somebody really blows up, you kind of just assume that it's going to be very difficult to keep them on the team, you know, especially like that's a good thing about my shit though, is that like one of the guys who gets the most views on my channel is a fucking reformed pimp. I don't know if he's reformed. He might still be a pimp. But,
For all intents and purposes, he's reformed.
I mean, I could very much imagine that like most podcasts would not really want his services because he's fucking, you know, got this backstory. And like a lot of the dudes like AD and T-Rail are like, they're gang members, like they're not standing on the fucking corner, but like they come from that environment and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like a lot of people might not necessarily be able to contain all these different personalities, but for me it is kind of weird at times where I'm like, how the fuck am I going to maintain this? And especially as it keeps growing. But I try to like just really be like an actual friend to them, an actual give them as much advice, just try to really have their best interests in mind. And like my attitude is kind of like, you know, if you do podcasts on here for a year or two and then at some point somebody offers you a huge check that I can't match, all right, like we had a great year or two together. Like I wonder though with the fans, like how much they'll be able to accept that though, because that might be a bitter pill to swallow when somebody just moves on, you know. But we haven't really got to that point yet. But yeah,
that's been happening a lot in the athlete side of things. Like I think it was the I Am Athlete broke off into what's the new one with Fred Jackson and a few others. I can't think of the name of it, but basically they spent like their first few podcasts talking about like why they broke away from Brandon Marshall and everything. It's just, you know, name recognition. They just get too big as a collective group that they don't need 6 of them anymore.
Right.
And everybody just does better as a 2 or 3 headed monster and competition.
I try to be like super transparent about the money side of things. And it's like realistically, if you end up being somebody that's making a fuckload of money, like I want to establish a contract or whatever that allows you to feel like you're really participating in that. Like obviously I'm not in a position where I could ever be like, oh, you own 1% of No Jumper or whatever, because we're so established in so many other ways. But yeah, there's definitely like, you know, I just feel like at a certain point you got to be willing to really let them see a large percentage of the money. But then the problem is that like when you look at a lot of these media startups, they're not dealing with, like they have investor capital. They're not dealing with the actual financial realities of the fact that you don't make that much money on YouTube. But then you look at it like, okay, well, how does Barstool pay their people so much? Well, they have a huge ad sales division that we don't really, like we haven't been as good with that. We get ads sometimes, but it's definitely not like fucking Barstool where they can just blanket your content in ads. So yeah, I don't know.
Or even like Ferris and Rogan, I've heard them charging like upwards of $500,000 to $1 million for an ad spot.
Damn.
Like Ferris talks openly about just
Ferris does-
literally turning hundreds of people away that are offering $500,000 for a spot.
And it's like large duration contracts. It's like you have to do like 6 months minimum. Or else he just
if
doesn't
you're
even
Rogan,
listen.
I mean, you can call your own fucking shots. Although at this point, too, Spotify probably running that shit for him.
He doesn't do anything.
Think about how much more powerful that is to have like this insane ad sales team on your side as well. But yeah, I don't know, because honestly though, I've kind of gotten deals offered to me in the past couple of months where it's like, oh, that is the craziest amount of money I've ever fucking heard of in my life. But also like you're kind of asking me to do something that I think is lame. And I might really just say no because I just fucking feel like it. So, I don't know.
Do you have any like long-term goals that you haven't yet reached or see yourself being a part of when it comes to the no jumper stuff or other things in that nature?
Oh, I mean, honestly, my goal is just to keep grinding it and just keep making it better. And I don't know, like I just don't want to feel like so many of the missteps would be doing something lame for money.
Yeah.
You know, like those opportunities are out there all the time. And not like one ad, obviously one ad can be lame or whatever, but I've had big ass contracts offered to me of like, oh, we want to stream your podcast live on this platform. And it just honestly feels like it would be like spitting in the face of my fucking YouTube audience. And like, I just think it's more important to stay on YouTube. And I mean, I might end up regretting that someday or whatever, but I don't think so. I think,
bro, it's crazy the way YouTube gets these strangleholds. Like they don't compensate. But also, you stay fucking loyal to them because they're the #1 search engine when it comes to video content.
Yeah.
But Mr. Beast was talking a lot about this, where it's just like, and he's in a different realm in the sense that like everything he's doing is pretty philanthropic, so he doesn't really care about the bottom line.
You're talking about when he was talking to Joe Rogan about it?
Yeah.
Because that was a weird ass conversation where Joe's like, you could just get a huge deal from somebody, and like Rogan has kind of accepted the financial realities of this. I mean, he's like in his 50s and shit, and Mr. Beast is like in his early mid 20s, you know. So Mr. Beast is like, no, like I could keep growing on YouTube. Like
That's crazy.
I mean, he just views YouTube
his vision
as such
is
a
literally
thing,
just
you know?
like to be the Jesus Christ of content creation. He's probably not that far removed.
And he is playing 100, 200, and I was not invited to this game on Sunday on Hustler, and I asked, and they were like, oh, bro, we already got too many people, and I was just.
I've been trying so hard. He's played a bunch around town.
Yeah.
He's played a bunch of games that I've actually been in. Like I've taken his seat at certain moments where like he's left, I got the call, I went in, and it's like Beast was just here. It's like all I want him to do is watch 30 seconds of Poker Out Loud and just like validate me.
And then do it.
Yeah, or then just do it, obviously. But like I think that like the idea is strong enough that he is somebody who's in for good content would be interested by it.
Yeah, you know, I've been trying to get him to go and play on Hustler for a while, and then I guess they finally got him. But yeah, I mean, I played like a $20,000 entry sit and go with like him and Logan Paul and KSI and all the biggest YouTubers.
That was fun.
It was like just the craziest thing ever. And I ended up losing a fucking flip to Ninja and it had the most ridiculous, it was second and third place get their buy-in back, and then first place gets everything else. So I got second and was not that satisfied by it.
Yeah, me neither. I
landed at a piece, right?
Yeah, a small piece.
I was sweating this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I was actually sweating this from afar.
I was your
when you told me
coach.
he had a piece.
Yeah. I was your coach then.
You want to know what he was? You want to know who he was bitching about? Not that you didn't win the thing, and not that like he didn't make money on the deal.
That you couldn't ghost for me?
No, that he couldn't play. That he actually couldn't play. He's like, man, look at this game. I'm
No,
like,
come on,
bro, this is
playing
not
that.
poker. Like these are just guys who have money
Bro,
that
he's
like
just making me look
found a
bad.
game to gamble in.
And bro, the money that those dudes were talking about just casually in the context of the game, of like not the game, but of talking about their brand deals and all this stuff, is like, it really, especially at that time, made me really feel like, oh, you aren't doing shit. You need to fucking grind, get off your ass. Like there's so much more shit that you could be doing for yourself. Like every dollar amount I heard was like the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because that's something that I can relate really closely to. So, you know, everything I know about you, you don't really have much of a business background, but you've built this platform at a bare minimum. Like I don't know to what degree we can call it a full-blown business. Like you would know more than me, but what has that process been like? Like how much of your business education and acumen have you developed on the fly? And do you think that like you still have a lot of blind spots that could be better? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a business manager at this point who kind of like just helps me and I have a big legal team and shit who like so many of the deals I do, like it's crazy when somebody gives you a deal and then you give it to the attorney and just be like, hey, make this better, and then we're going to bring it back to him, like, which I'd never done like my whole life in terms of negotiating. And then I've done that a few times, and like, you know, just in our YouTube network, you know, the attorney's just like, have you ever thought about asking them for an advance? And I'm like, no. And he comes back and he's like, I got like a $500,000 advance, so that's going to be really nice for you, like to be able to have a bigger cushion to create content with. And I'm like, I never in a million years would have thought of that, but my fucking YouTube network is broadband, so of course they have the cash, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, like I don't know, like it is tricky, but I feel like I have enough like good minds around me at this point that anything that I don't understand is probably like gonna get taken care of. And then also I just have like a very strong intuition / like I'm pretty much willing to learn about any opportunity that's being presented to us.
What about like before blowing up though? Like, because obviously it wasn't always this, right? At some point it was just you and a couple of your friends or a couple of people that you hired. Like what was that part like? Because for me, I find that I just seem to relish failure. Like it's just second nature to me now of like, I'm going to try some shit. I'm going to fall on my face.
Right. Well,
and then I'm going to scratch my head.
Falling on my face was the adpocalypse in 2018, I think, or maybe 2017, where I got to the point where I was doing an iPhone vlog every day and grinding out these interviews. And I had a store on Melrose in Hollywood, so which we are about to open another store in that area now. It's been closed for like two years or so. But at a certain point, that was my life. Every day I would go to the store. I would make this iPhone vlog, which I had no shortage of content because there's all kinds of freaks coming into the store, weird rapper wannabe people, and like not to mention the actual celebrities and rappers who would come in. I was just getting these vlogs that would get 500,000 views, 1 million views, whatever. And then I'm also doing the interviews. And around that time, my monthly income was like 40, 50 grand a month from just YouTube, which to me, as someone who, if you had asked me like a year or two prior to that, I would have told you that my goal in life, period, since like 2011 was to make 10 grand a month from YouTube.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm at like 50 grand a month, and I could not see past that. And then all of a sudden the fucking adpocalypse hits, and it's like, oh no, that 50 turns into 5. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, I have to figure out every other fucking revenue source. And that's when we started going crazy with the merch, started live streaming, playing people's music, when we started like just really dipping our toes and doing a lot of stuff. And now the YouTube money has very much like stabilized, and YouTube is pretty consistent for us and everything. The Clips channel, the Patreon, the Facebook, like we just have like a shitload of fucking very solid revenue streams for us at this point, which helps us weather certain things. Like for example, our CPM on YouTube was like $11 and just recently was like $6.
Yeah.
Just dropped so significantly. Whereas like in a normal month we would have been making like $250,000, and all of a sudden it's like 130 or something. And I'm just like, I'm so fucking glad that our business is like doing well enough that that's not a catastrophic blow. But I always tell the team that like we can't do anything. We should always be ready for our income to be cut in half.
Yeah.
You know, like you just have to be ready for that, because so many of these things weren't here a year ago, and I hear about people getting banned off Facebook. And if that happens to us, like I just need to be able to not worry about it and keep it going. And like, so that sometimes like limits our growth a little bit, where I'm just like very cautious, because I've seen so many of these fucking revenue streams get pulled out from under people.
What like broke the dam? Because obviously it's never a shortage of ideas. Executing on good ideas is not really that difficult if you're a creator or you're the type of person who can get shit done. But something has to move that needle to go from 10K a month to 50 to 500.
Yeah, I mean, but at that time, like the biggest part of it was just me realizing like that this social networking game I'm playing, every interview I do is getting me more and more fans, and like I'm seeing it day by day where my Instagram followers are going up, and every day when I'm making content, just these numbers are just going up. And it honestly wasn't until the fucking pandemic and when we got out of the store where I kind of like started to realize how much of my life had began to just completely revolve around content. And it's like things that I was doing, like, oh, it's 10 p.m. on a Wednesday, I'm gonna go to this fucking listening party for some rapper just so that I can get extra footage of him and put it in my vlog, and maybe I'll talk to him on camera for a couple minutes because the video will get more views. And at a certain point, like especially with having, and I had a kid during the pandemic too, so it's like at a certain point I start to realize like, oh, I don't need to go this hard. Like I can't just orient my entire personality around doing the thing that's going to make me the most money. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just like feeling out different things. Like, I mean, Facebook is the biggest fucking game changer financially for us in the last like year. And it was like, I just had this one dude bugging me, just telling me that he could make me all this money on Facebook. We were making like $20K a month. I finally fucking agreed, signed the contract with him. He 10x that in like a fucking month or two. And it's just like,
You got a contact
This is just
for
through like
us?
paid
Wait,
ads.
time out. Whoa, relax. You got a contact?
I mean, I do hear about poker people doing all right on Facebook, at least
believe
getting signups and
believe
stuff. But
We're so bad with this shit. We have 0 paid ads.
Sounds like he has a guy for this.
oh yeah, I got a guy.
I always,
Plug.
I mean,
I'll
I
plug.
think a little bit is just kind of like the way your mind thinks, because people say like drug dealers would run a better business than NBA people. Like with your background of like credit cards and whatever, like your mind probably just like finds a way to like
Hustle.
and make it happen and like do whatever you need and like and not get caught.
Yeah, I was a criminal who had to adjust to business rather than being like just a business person who like eventually saw opportunities to commit crimes.
Right.
You
White
know?
collar crimes.
It's funny
yeah.
because I think the opposite is far more common.
Right, and I'm glad I got that shit out of my system because
Yeah.
I hear about people who have like big serious positions who then can't help but like steal from it, and like I'm like, wow, that's like so unbelievably
Yeah.
short-sighted.
It's the difference between doing it out of necessity and doing it out of for like a desire for power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where eventually you just start to accrue so much wealth that the money doesn't even mean anything to you anymore. Now it's just about keeping score and holding over on other people. Where it's like most people who start off as like a criminal in some sort of regard, it's like they probably come from humble beginnings and like they were struggling to get by, and this just was low-hanging fruit. And I'm not saying like either are excusable, but one certainly evolves much better than the alternative. You
And
know?
that's how I felt about poker too. I felt like, wow, this is so much better than fucking credit card scam. And like the variance does not feel that bad in comparison to the feeling of walking into a fucking store and wondering if you're about to have like cops fucking surround you. You know?
Right, yeah.
It just sounds like you did a lot of stuff too at the beginning and even so now, like that have a lot of asymmetric upside. Where like, I guess like this first interview you did, where it didn't really cost much for you to do to go to the thing and go to the bar and like have like take this picture, but the benefits of doing that are insurmountable.
Right.
Where like it didn't cost you that much to even go there in the first place.
Right, because and especially I was in that BMX world where it's just hard to like do anything that like cracks that fucking ceiling. You know, it's exactly the same as poker, where it's like there's a lot of creators who get an okay amount of views consistently and almost nobody who can break out outside that.
Right.
And then as soon as I got a taste for like the rapper thing and like started to like get that confidence about like, because I just had such tunnel vision in the BMX world, and at a certain point, the same thing with poker, I started to realize like all these companies are just marketing to the kids who already ride BMX bikes. You know, it's like there's just no growth in this unless you manage to be able to do something bigger. And honestly, I was having so much success with my BMX YouTube channel before No Jumper started hitting. Like I remember I had my first viral video that got like 3 million views on the BMX channel, and that was the first month that I cracked 10 grand on YouTube. And then within like a month or two or whatever, I was like, my heart is not in this shit anymore. I'm doing the No Jumper thing. Like I can't balance doing the bike riding thing and the rap thing.
Kind of had to pick one.
I just had to pick one. I'm like, I love BMX riding since I was like 12 years old, but I just know that I have like a bigger purpose.
You saw
at
there's a
this
bigger
point.
future, and
That's
No
such
Jumper.
a sick pivot
Higher
to like
ceiling.
just see the higher ceiling and say like, even if this is not necessarily my full passion, like it will be.
And I just kind of realized at that point that like my passion was not necessarily like just this one little element of the culture. It was subcultures in general, which is the same reason of why I want to know about fucking Bryn Kenny, who I did not even know that name prior to all this.
Yeah,
cheating,
but dude's
you know?
licking toads.
It's
Like,
because I'm so fascinated by just like how I don't know, there's something about poker players in particular where I just like really find their personalities interesting because they're so analytical and like logical, and that's a big thing that bothers me in like rap conversations and shit, is that so often people are just not arguing the same thing and the arguments
Yeah.
are so bad, and I'm just like, bro, why can't you just talk about the thing? Like poker's
Just
pretty good
arguing
at talking
past
about the
each other.
thing, you know?
Right.
yeah.
Okay, well, how about this for a merge? Strip poker out loud.
Okay. This seems like a
interested.
plugcast type of
Plug
conversion
talk,
here.
Solve for why strip poker out loud.
Okay.
The overlap between like poker players and porn stars, like I don't know, but like that
could
would be
be
really
there.
Sure as
interesting.
fuck gonna find
Could
out.
be
I'll
there.
tell you right now.
Mikki got to be on there.
There's a shocking.
If you get knocked out, you got to go upstairs with
Mikki
Mikki.
will be the ringleader.
That's the final bust out.
There's either one of two things is true. Either there's a shocking overlap between poker and strippers in general, or somehow my Instagram has just curated a liking.
Connor
That's
and I
you.
used to play with strippers every day. Like,
Yeah.
I got a lot of girls who are
telling
like
you.
dancing on the side, hitting me up saying like, "How can I get better at cards?" It's like, wait, what?
There's
First of all,
definitely an overlap.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's weird because it's like you've already chosen an independent path. But I would imagine that something about sex work feels limiting. Like the ceiling is probably relatively low, so is the shelf life.
Yeah, but I mean, just doing it yourself, like that's what the weird thing to explain to people sometimes is like, I'm not, outside of the fact that I'm a fucking heterosexual male and that I like having sex with hot girls, I don't give a fuck about making porn. You know, I'm just doing this because this is helping this business become a thing. And at some point, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm almost 40. Like my girl's 30. She got plenty of years, I'm sure, left doing whatever on camera. I'll be happy to continue to do whatever. But I mean, the thing that gets me excited about it is just the idea of like building a brand and being able to do all these exciting things. Like I have shit I wish I could tell you about on camera that I'm so excited about that we're doing under that. And yeah, I don't know, just the idea of like being able to build teams big enough that these businesses can kind of have their own momentum that you don't have to be hovering over every day is like
You're
insanely
officially an
exciting.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it is, man.
A
Yeah.
little bit.
It seems more about like the process of building versus like the thing in itself.
100%. And I wish I had just figured that out earlier in my life because then I wouldn't have done the BMX thing for 12 years straight.
Yeah, you probably don't get there without it, right? Like, because that was a true passion project.
It was, but also like I became like I moved to New York by at the age of 22. I became pretty much the biggest, most heard voice in the BMX world, and I was just kind of like, oh fuck, I made it. I was making like 10 grand a month off BMX shit, and I was just like, I don't need anything more. This is my life. Like I'm just gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna hang out with my friends and ride bikes and make videos, and then kind of like around when I moved to LA was when I realized like this shit probably is going downhill because the blog traffic is not growing. It's kind of trickled off over the years. You were seeing where like social media, as soon as Instagram started coming out, it just started to be like the writings on the wall. Like this blog shit is not going to be that big a deal going forward.
There's
you know?
more digestible content. So to speak.
Exactly. Like why do people need a fucking blog to go to anymore when, you know, they could just
Watch 5-second
like,
video.
I don't need it. I go on YouTube and I subscribe to a lot of the channels that I might want to see a BMX video from / the algorithm does a good enough job serving up other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could have like created an app for the fucking TV for my website or whatever. But I mean, we had an iPhone app, which was like a really big deal for a while. But yeah, it just kind of like became clear to me that that was a dying market and that bike riding in general was kind of going downhill at that point.
What do you think about poker?
Poker, see, that's the weird thing about it is that poker players love to fucking talk to each other and have these sort of like high level conversations, but like nobody's in the dark about the fact that those aren't bringing new players in,
Right.
and that the best way to bring new players in is probably something that's way more ambitious and difficult to pull off and probably would be impossible with the legislation and everything. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm optimistic though, because when I look at Brad Owen, I'm just like, dude, I mean, this is a guy who clearly just speaks for the everyman in
Yeah.
poker and can get like 500,000 fucking views on his videos. I'm like, that to me right there alone proves that
But there's
poker's
something.
fine.
There's
Yeah.
something.
You know?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
worry that that's the cap, right? We just haven't seen anything grow beyond what Brad's done. And I'm not saying that like what he's done isn't impressive, but it's like, you know, if we're capped at say 300K followers on YouTube and maybe 1 million or 2 views, there's just not a lot to explore there. And don't get me wrong, Brad's crushing it. He just signed with WPT to be an ambassador. He's basically just like getting pimped out by a major organization to run meetup games and get paid a very handsome sum to do so. So it's like he himself as an individual has definitely gone a path that everybody would love to replicate. He's found a way to monetize poker outside of just being good at the game, which is pretty impressive.
My quick kind
I just
of
don't know if it
thoughts-
scales.
Yeah, like, well, you kind of saw with chess, right? Where chess didn't have that much views and started booming on Twitch and things of that nature. Where like
The Queen's
there is like a
Gambit.
I think there's a pretty real possibility that like content creators or people with an audience already outside of poker start sort of jumping into poker a little bit and seeing where that goes. Because like if there's like content creator collaborations where like they have a lot of like a massive social media following that then do poker stuff with people in poker. Like, it doesn't make sense for poker to have more of an audience.
With,
Yeah, like Botez, and they did a content creators thing on Hustler. Now Mr. Beast and
They
some
just
others
don't
are
need
playing
us as
on.
the problem.
Us is like
Us
as
is in the
Yeah,
industry.
but we benefit from it.
We benefit from it, but like not quite as directly as we would hope, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so Botez doesn't need us to get views within the poker space.
Yeah.
She can just show up.
Right.
And so it kind of like isolates the actual industry itself away, and she just becomes like in another vehicle, kind of like, you know, driving her own viewership
For what
and
it's
brand.
worth, like I've recently started watching this game called Super Auto Pets. It's just like a game. It's like an auto battler, and I get a lot. The reason I bring this up,
talking about not
the
being
reason I
ready.
bring this up is because I've gotten a lot of like videos and content from other creators in the space that I never would have saw otherwise. Where like for poker and things of that nature, like with the YouTube algorithm, sometimes like a
That's
video
true.
will just pop up out
Yeah,
of
that's true.
nowhere.
How did you
That's
start
true.
watching Super Auto Pets?
I just saw the game on. I saw Ludwig playing
thought
on
you said
stream.
Super Autis
Saw
Pets.
Super Auto Pets
Super
and
Autis
started.
Pets?
No,
Autist.
dude, it's a great game. I've never played this game once. I've only watched it. But that's all I do is I.
I actually used to do that with Rust, the game.
Yeah. So
I've never played it, but I love watching the videos.
yeah.
You need bigger channels and bigger people to elevate. Like they have this conversation on other YouTube platforms. Like, okay, how do you grow your channel? It's like, well, you actually need the bigger channels to do well so that your video gets suggested
Right.
to
Yeah.
other
Right.
people. So it's like if you have someone from slightly outside of poker, adjacent to poker, like Adam has like his own section, but now people that might run into Adam's.
It's like cross-referencing.
Right,
Need the
exactly. And
doorway
now-
to the
So we need
subculture.
Adam to do well, and then maybe potentially come here, and now all of a sudden there's like, oh wait, so Adam plays poker. I like Adam. Like let's fuck with poker now. Like that's
Yeah.
cool.
Like in the my time in BMX, there was a time period around like 2014 where this random kid from Florida named Adam LZ, he starts a YouTube channel. He's into bike riding. He's a fucking dork. He's like he's like 18 or some shit. He's like a real dork. He would not mind me saying that because he's grown up a lot since then. But you know, he's into cars and shit like that. And he's a YouTuber, and all of a sudden he has 1 million subscribers, and he's making videos with him going to the skate park with his friends. And it's like, it didn't matter at all that he wasn't the best bike rider. And it seemingly didn't matter that he had like a really kind of corny, like 18-year-old kid personality. It was the biggest growth spike that I might have seen in my whole time in BMX riding, because you had one YouTuber who just has a gigantic following, getting like 1 million views per video, and him alone, his frame that year, like a bike company gave him a frame or something. I heard it was the biggest selling frame that year over all these pro riders and stuff. And when I looked at that and I said, this is why BMX is not doing as well as skateboarding, because skateboarding has just had pop culture looks over and over and over. We have a Ryan Sheckler with a show on MTV, or a fucking Jackass, which came from skateboarding,
Rob
and
Dyrdek.
Dyrdek with fucking Tony Hawk just being Tony Hawk, not to mention the Tony Hawk video game. All these things that BMX never really got any of those looks. Well, I say that just to say that like Brad Owen to me seems like that, where it's like, he just, I don't know what it is. Like he's cool on camera. I don't really like understand why he gets 10 times more views than like a lot of the other guys that he kicks it with and stuff. I mean, I do think he's good on camera, but it just amazes me how well he does. But I do think that in a lot of ways with poker, like aside from the legislation, it just comes down to like individual social media superstars. But the thing is that if you had poker stars pushing poker in America and wanting to spend like $50 million this year to make Brad Owen like the new Dwan, then that would actually be able to like make him a way bigger celebrity.
Right.
And they could take other players who maybe don't necessarily have the same, like having that money behind all these people would really change.
Yeah, we
things,
talk
I'm
about that
pretty
all the
sure.
time.
Machine.
The golden age hasn't passed yet, and it may not in my career span, because we just won't see that influx of money. Like Negreanu is Negreanu, Helmuth is Helmuth, Ivy is Ivy, because they had tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars building those brands. And a guy like Owen is grassroots. He did everything bootstrapped, right? So sure, he has the WPT behind him now, and they're going to grow him somewhat, but like nothing to the degree of what PokerStars was doing for Negreanu or Full Tilt was doing for Ivy. We just won't ever see that again. I mean, I hope we do.
I mean, watching TV in the 2000s, and it's just every fucking ad was for Full Tilt and shit. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
bro, it was
absolutely.
insane.
They were such good ads too.
Yeah, and they were creating
We were just
content
talking
out the
about
ass like for fucking ESPN and shit because they just wanted to put as much poker on TV because it's super cheap content that they could run all night and it would get decent views or ratings, as the case may have been. And you know, it's like that just was. When you think about how much poker was like forced into people's consciousness through those ads that don't exist anymore.
Right. Like I heard that these full tilt pros had ads and stuff like for TV and such, and me thinking about that now from being in poker at the time I'm like, how is that even real? Like,
know.
how did these ads even get created in the first
surreal.
place? What do you mean ads on TV? There's no poker on
But
TV.
they're printing money. Like they're making so much money that of course you want to spend
Right.
fuckload.
Yeah,
And
but
you're
they were
competing
credit
against all
card
these
scamming.
competitors.
They were credit card scamming too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
How much poker are you playing these days? And like, or are you playing mostly public, or is this just like, you know, friends kind of in a basement type thing? I don't exactly know what happens whenever you're that wealthy but have a hobby.
Well, but people invite me to private games all the time, but then they're like, yeah, pull up. And I'm like, oh, you guys play at night. Like, I can't. Like, I get up at like 5 a.m. I got a kid. Like, I got fucking every day that I go into the office is just like I had a realization at one point that like, even if I could play poker like Michael Adamo, I should still do my YouTube channel.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like
for sure. You make
and
way
me
more
being
doing what you're
me, I
doing.
should clearly just focus on the YouTube channel, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I play on ACR, like I'll just maybe like once a month or like every like 5-6 weeks, I'll just like convince my girl like, oh, I got to study for interviews this week, and then just play everything on ACR. And,
It's all built on trust.
yeah, I got to shout out the 60NL streets on fucking ACR because a lot of times at night when I'm like watching podcasts and shit, I'll just be playing fucking Blitz on there or whatever. I go on Hustler sometimes, which like today playing 2-5 against the fucking win regs really made me like, oh wow, I got to keep playing those games because they're just the craziest games. It's so fun and it's great being able to rewatch your shit. I got to like clear more time to go play at Hustler and stuff because those live stream games are just so amazing in comparison to like pretty much anything else I could do.
Just from like an
poker-wise.
environment standpoint too. It's just more fun, regardless of like how good the game is, so to speak. Which
Right.
even though it happens to be better, like the environment in a public game is not as great.
And honestly, the fact they take your phones makes a world of difference because when I was playing at the Win today, it's just everyone's just staring at their phone and it's just really zaps a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah. You finish a hand and then they're like,
No, because a kid sat down next to me who was a poker vlogger, and it took me a second to realize that that's what he was doing, is that he's filming and then grabbing his phone and like writing what happened in the
Getting
hand.
notes down for
And
the
then
hand.
I'm realizing like, oh, he's 3-betting me because he is going to put me in his fucking thumbnail. Even if he loses this hand, it doesn't matter because he can put me in the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's
Respect,
facts.
game recognized game, you know?
Yeah, it was dope.
As far as like, we'll call it being a poker fan, who do you find to be like the most volatile personality type or the most hateable or the most watchable from the outside looking in?
Fuck. Well, I want to shout out all the streamers that I really like watching first, because I have to shout out Jordan from BBZ because he is by far the person who like gave me the most coaching and just helped me so much in terms of like really like figuring out how to get better at poker. Like his help was just like unbelievable. So he's a big one. And then he has Ape Styles and the guy Yargo, who I like watching both of them a lot. And man, but honestly, like I have a real thing where I like come home from working my ass off all day and I just have to watch like a poker tournament or two, like the clip highlight thing from Twitch. I watch All in Pav. Like I just love his shit. I love watching.
These guys are all good
Love
though. Like,
Pav.
where's the guilty pleasure? Where's the train wreck that you tune in for?
No, but I don't think I really look at anybody in poker like that much.
Oh, you're not looking close enough, man.
Oh yeah, well I guess I follow Poker Bunny on Twitter, so yeah. But,
I'm about to Will Smith her ass. Like, keep my name out your goddamn mouth.
but she took shots at you too.
Every day, man.
shit.
She doesn't even tag me. She'll just like talk shit and write my name in it. She went at Garrett today.
Yeah, I saw
She
that.
just wants the clicks. Like
She's better than him.
yeah. Point blank.
Okay.
I mean, if you're 23
Bald-
these days, you have to be better than everybody who's been playing for decades.
BFB, Bald Fraud Berkey.
Like, honestly, I hate to even give it attention because, like, literally, she's just doing it for clicks. And I'm
Yeah,
sure this
yeah,
happens a lot in your industry where, like, people are clout chasing and they're just like, they want to throw your name around, they want to throw your face around in thumbnails and shit like that to try to get the views.
I had a friend who was like texting her, and he told me like, yeah, like, you know, she stopped texting me back. Like, I'm just like, I'm not having this conversation. Bro, you're gotta go this one your own.
Quick question: where did the 22 come from Adam 22?
So when I was 15, I made a live journal, which was like before MySpace or any of that shit. There was live journal, and actually it had at least somewhat of a poker presence, because I remember I used to follow a couple people on there who would use live journal as their like poker blog day to day. But I just wrote my name and then put 2 2s after it, and then people started calling me it at school. And I think like my 16-year-old brain was kind of like, oh, branding, like this is branding, like with a little butterfly. And I was like, oh, like that's better than Grand Mason.
Right.
Like, people will remember that easier. This is better. And so then I just kept making that my screen name, and I just always felt like it kind of worked. I never had to try to get people to call me it. They just called me it. But.
Pretty good number, I guess. Like, it could have been worse numbers.
I mean, it's not 11, but whatever.
Sometimes people ask me, and I just say some shit about, well, I used to always have a gun on me when I was in high school. And they're like, oh, like, really? Believe in it? And I'm like, nah, I just fucking made it
dark
up,
streets
dude.
in New Hampshire.
Right. Dark side back
But
then.
people believe that when I say it, because it kind of sounds logical. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Depends how you say it, too. If you got the conviction, you can convince someone of anything.
yeah, that's real.
Well, fuck, man. We've been at this for a while. I won't take any more of your time. I really appreciate you stopping in. This has been an awesome experience. So much more I want to pick your brain about, but I'm not gonna torture everybody. Maybe another time down the road.
Anytime. And shout out to you guys, because I really like the podcast. And thank you for taking Landon in and giving him some direction in life and helping him to stop punting his stack off all the time.
You're not shortchanging that, man. He's been a real project. Not poker wise. Poker wise, he's fucking solid. But raising him as a young man, it's been a fucking chore.
It sounds like it, man. But
from the couch to the penthouse, he's gonna have his goal. This is no joke. He's been telling me this for like a year and a half. I bitch and complain about running this island of misfit toys, this house that I have where everybody lives, and his ambition is to somehow take this burden off my hands. He goes, "Don't worry, Matt. I'm just gonna buy the house for you."
Yeah.
Why not?
Easy.
I didn't even know I wanted to sell it, but every time he says it, I'm just kind of like, I'm good with that. You take the deed. I'll be on my way to some little
if
island
the challenge
somewhere.
had gone a little bit better, you might be able to cop it.
damn.
Next door. Back door, bro.
And always on that Perkins shit.
It was a year ago. It was a year ago, man. We'll figure it out.
Man, the day I saw Doug use you for clickbait, I was just like, damn, this is a dirty game, man.
He made it.
That's a dirty game. Immediately hit play. All right.
I did too.
Play, like, subscribe.
I did too.
It's a cold world out there. It comes at you fast.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
It's been a great interview. For those of you guys tuning in, we will be live again. Next week? Monday? Yeah, so we'll be back Monday. I think it's the 2nd. And we're going to be, right back in the shits 5 days a week. I'm sure there'll be some other cheating scandal. I stole it from you. I'm not going to lie.
Back in the shit.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's been a goddamn shit show for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
so how else can you describe it?
Fuck Cox.
Yeah.
Amen.
Suck
Can we go
fuck.
live again? Jesus Christ. The upload speed today was like 0.6.
Yeah.
That hurt my heart when I was hearing you guys talk about getting throttled. I was like,
Yeah.
God damn it, if they try to do that to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we're dealing with Monopoly here. There's nothing we can do.
We might have to move to the house.
We're gonna have to we're gonna have to set all our phones down in the middle of the room and turn on hotspots.
I know.
Just have it
Rotate
ping off of one
hotspots.
another until we can finally get enough upload speed. We'll be back Monday. New episode of Poker Out Loud will be out Monday as well, so we'll tease that for you guys. Thank you guys all so much. Always a pleasure. Please like, subscribe, comment. You know the deal. Get us a little bit of traction. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.